All right, we're live. Hi, everybody. It's JavaScript Enabled, formerly JavaScript Tuesday, but now on Thursday. Um, I usually like to start just people doing brief introductions. My name's Dan. I live in the Bay Area in California, and I am a teaching assistant at a code school right now for the next week and a half or so. And then we do Ruby and JavaScript, so I do both, and I'm trying to like keep the JavaScript flame alive. Been working a lot with Angular recently, so I'll just go down the line and just say like your name, where in the world you are, roughly, and just like how new are you to JavaScript? Like what are some things you're working on right now? So Kim, you're new, but you're also first in the alphabet, so I'm going to ask you to go first.
Okay, I'm Kim. I'm in the Atlanta area. I've been doing online tutorials and such since April. I'm actually the co-organizer of the Code Newbie Atlanta group,
Awesome.
and interested in JavaScript. I actually just started also an Angular group, um, and so and before I got on here, I was looking up the difference between Mean Stack and Meteor. So that's me.
Cool. Awesome. Mark, how you doing?
Yeah, can you hear me this time?
Yes, I can.
Ooh, first time, first try. All right. I'm pretty good, man. Actually, no, I'm not. Man, documentation for the Google Maps API and the Mapbox API was just a little confusing this week. It's like a slow progress.
Okay, cool. Can you just briefly introduce yourself? We're still just doing introductions.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm from San Diego, currently in the military, making a slow transition out. Hopefully to be a web developer focused on the mean stack as well. I use Free Codecamp, Udemy, and Team Treehouse, and some other stuff, some other free ones. Project Odin, that's about it.
Cool. All right. Good to see you again. Michael, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Michael. I'm from South Carolina. I'm trying to break into the, I guess, development career. More a C# person. I've been using Pluralsight and other stuff to learn web development. I guess that's me.
Cool. Thank you. And Tommy.
Yeah, my name is Tommy. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. Currently a Salesforce consultant slash developer, looking to build on to my JavaScript repertoire and join a community and help build something as well, which is why I'm here. Like other people, I've been working through a lot of different online tutorials. Actually, just saw today and signed up for a bunch of Coursera courses. There's a bunch now that are related to JavaScript. There isn't any specific to React, but there are a few now out there for. I saw some for Angular, just JavaScript in general, Meteor JS that they just posted up there. So enrolled in those and interested to see how those go. But other than that, just doing a lot of online tutorials and currently writing a blog post for the Code Newbie blog based on the API wrapper work that I showed off last week.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. Like I said before we started, like there's no wrong way to do it. You know, just whatever you learned, whatever you want to write about. Cool. So we've got Corey as well, but no face, no mic. So Corey, if you want to introduce yourself, you're welcome to. If you don't feel like sharing, because we are on air, you're welcome to. Also, there's a chat window. So you can do a text-based self-introduction there if you'd like. I'm trying to get there we go. Okay, I just want to make sure we have the okay. So let's see what happened in the last week or so. I'm going to share the Trello board. Does anyone need access to Trello? If so, send me a direct message in the Slack channel. Trello. Sorry, it's taking a sec. Okay, Kim, I will send it to you as soon as I can. Of course, everything starts running really slow right now. Nope, I didn't want to screen share. So I'm just posting that. You know, I'm actually gonna post it in the Slack. The Slack window as well as here, so we can all see it. So this is our Trello board. So we've got a few different columns here. You know what? I will screen share. It's probably for the best. Newbie mapper. There we go. So we got a couple things. Like I still have to update the README. That's on me. Tommy, you wrote us that Meetup API wrapper. Do you want to leave that in progress, or do you feel like you're done with it?
Leave it in progress for now. I mean, it's committed, but I want to add a couple of other things to it. I just didn't have the time this week to look at it, but just leave it in progress for now. And
okay, we'll do. I still have to add the resources to the README, so that's pretty important. I should probably take care of that this evening. And then we had a couple folks sign up for tasks last week. Looks like David Williams is not here. He was going to look into hosting location for us. The project, for those of you who are new, is that we want to do use a mapping service as our back end and write a React app on the front that will, so that members of the CodeNewbie community can add themselves to like a metro area or their city and find other people nearby who are in the community. And then the first iteration would also include an API for meetups that will let people find events together and attend them together. So that was the so Kim, for instance, you are leading CodeNewbie Atlanta through, I believe, Meetup. I think that's what Saran said. So you could put your event on here and attract people to it, and hopefully it could be a really cool tool for the community. So that's the project. Does anyone have questions about that? Because I know like we get new faces every week, and I never know how much catching up people need. Link says that board is not found. It's private. Okay, I have to add you. Yeah. Hold on. I'll stop screen sharing long enough to type your email in. Oh. Oop. I saw you, Kim. There's Kim. And someone else is asking as well, but. Sorry about this. You got it? Good. Screen share. Newbie mapper. Share. Oh. That's the team. Cool. So, Mark, you assigned this API wrapper to yourself last at some point after last week's meeting, but before this week. So, do you want to tell us like sort of what you started working on, and maybe share something that you made, or just questions that you have? Like after what Tommy did last week, I bet we could probably help you out.
Yeah. I got an echo. So the furthest I got was adding map to the HTML into the DOM, and what I'm stuck at right now is adding the layer and adding the either GeoJSON or I believe the other data is KVM. So adding actual data into the map. Like I could get the map on the screen, I just don't know how to input the data. So I messed around with Mapbox API and the Google Maps API, and that's where I'm at right now. I can't hear you.
Right. I wondered if the echo was me, but do those APIs have good documentation for how to structure your request? Is that where you're struggling, or is it more that you're not familiar, and like, do you know how to make an AJAX request? Like what's
No, like it's all brand new to me, so it's like just a slow process.
Sure.
I thought it was going to be one of those, just go ahead and grab the API and then just look at the functions and then just add it. I didn't know that you had to add the actual data to it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So, cool. Okay.
And then I got sidetracked by adding like other frameworks and libraries and build processes, and I was like, he said he's interested in Bower and other stuff, so I was like, let me look up that too. So I got sidetracked.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, so I mean, is there anything that you think we could help you with? Like, do you have really specific questions? Because that's what we're here for, right? We're all supposed to be learning and helping each other learn. So
yeah. Okay, I got the map on the screen. All right. So take for instance Google Maps. Google Maps API is just the map. Like you can change the texture or the layers and everything like that, and add markers and everything like that. Then you got Google Places API, which has like a database of all the businesses in Americas, per se. And then you need to download that. And like, how do I get Google Places API to work with Google Maps API? Like, get the data into the API.
Offhand, I don't know.
Or just take a or I don't even know if it's just GeoJSON. I know there's other databases, like just a JSON file data into, say, Mapbox's API or whatever.
So, have you ever, you've worked with jQuery, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, have you ever seen, for instance, maybe we can look at some of Tommy's code from last week, like. There's a function like $.get or $.post. That's You familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So is the question how does the Places API put stuff on the map that's already on your page?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, but let's look it up.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Mapbox API, and I mean, this is my first time really digging into it, so I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I think we want to add, or it sounds like we want to add markers, and the markers are taking like a latitude and a longitude, for example, right? And then it'd be the same way if you were looking at something on Google Maps. It's going to drop its little icon onto the map wherever you're trying to go or whatever address you put in.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from the Meetup API we can get, for example, we can get latitude and longitude, for example, from a meetup in the area. So, just thinking out loud, that may be something we want to look at too, is grabbing data from the Meetup API, getting the latitude and longitude, and then dropping the markers on the map in those places. I mean, that's easier said than done, but that's just like in my head what I'm thinking about.
Okay.
Since I was working with the Meetup API, that's why it's kind of flowing through my head right now.
Sure. Okay, so I'm looking at the documentation for their JavaScript API, which I'll post in the chat here if everyone wants to take a look at it. And it looks like it's pretty easy, it should be anyway, pretty easy to add. Let's see, there's like the blue section at the top, and then a white background section, and then a demos and sample code section. So that's what I'm looking at. And I'll share my screen again. So this is, for instance, the base map. Mark, is this familiar to you?
Yeah, that's as far as I got. I got the center, and I understand all the properties that's going on in there. It's just, how do I add? If you go down to, I believe it is, where is it at? It might be the geocoder, the geocoding section. That's where I just got confused.
Okay, cool. Well, okay, so they've got this markers section here where it looks like you can just create a Google.maps.marker with a position and a latitude and longitude object, but that looks like it's all front end. Like that doesn't really add it to the back end, so that might be part of the problem. What was the section you wanted to look at? The geocoding API?
Yeah, because I don't like is the addresses and longitude and latitude stuff already part of this API? Like that's where I was confused at, or do we need to go out and separately grab that, like a USA database or whatever, something like that? Or is it,
yeah, I think that's where.
Like, is it actually part of the API, or is it separate and we need to add it in as a JSON file?
Oh, okay.
We're going to need to add or tell it the the latitude and longitude of wherever we're getting. And I don't know, maybe if the Google Places API, like if you can somehow tie it to an address, like for example, if there's a meetup at a Starbucks, can we give the Google Places API, pass it an address or something, and then somehow it knows, this is a Starbucks, and then it adds everything to the marker. That's just thinking out loud.
Yeah, because it automatically, there's a Google Places API, and there's another API that automatically converts the address into longitude and latitude.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if it's actually part. Like, does Mapbox already come with the database, or is that separate and we have to add it into it?
Oh, Mapbox. Okay.
Or, I mean, whatever we end up using. I know, like, if we end up using Google API, we're going to have to add it into it, but I don't know.
So, okay, so I'm looking at, I'm still screen sharing, right? Yeah. So I'm looking at the Mapbox API, and they've got a geocoding section. They've got forward geocoding, which is, I gather, when you send an address and they turn it into latitude and longitude. So it looks like they perform that service. And then there's also proximity, which could be useful for us because we don't want to be too specific. And then they have reverse geocoding, where you send a latitude and longitude and they return an address. So I think they do have these functions. I don't think we should need to incorporate Google's as well if we're just using Mapbox. Examples. Yes, let's see some examples. Oh, there's a messy object.
That is actually a JSON.
Yeah. Geometry.
I'm posting in the chat right now, there's an example using their JavaScript library. Or an examples page. It has a whole bunch of different examples.
Okay, initializing a map as an HTML element. That's a good part of what we want. And then is the issue, Mark, that you want to be able to add a marker to the map that's already on the screen and you're not sure how?
No, no, I just wanted to know if the addresses were already part of the API or if we had to add it separately.
I think
Like,
that I
if
think
you
they
go through
are.
that tutorial, okay, yeah, because if you go through the tutorial, all it talks about is customizing the map, changing the colors, changing the markers, adding in your own legend, and then it talks about adding your own database. If it's like earthquakes that happened from 1997 to 2014, and what was the
Hmm.
magnitude? I was like, oh well, do I need to add in our address for every business that's located in the USA? So I was
Yeah,
like, or maybe does it already come with it, and I could just skip that part and go to add it in the layers and everything like that.
I see what you mean. So something equivalent to the Places API.
Yeah.
It may not. Uh, in which case, I mean, we might have to get the Google API talking to Mapbox, which could be fun. Let's see. Well, it's got directions. How does directions work? Oh, this is cool. I want to play with this. um, yeah, so it may not, for instance, know that the Starbucks is at a certain intersection or something. Um, but where where would we find that? I don't see like a search.
Yeah, that's it feels like it should be part of the geocoding, but that's
Mhm.
where I got stuck. Like everything was going smoothly until I got to the geocoding. I was like, oh, okay.
All right. So we
Yeah.
might need maybe Google Maps does turn out to be better if what we're looking for is like coding a lot of locations and existing businesses.
Yeah.
Uh, and there's no shame in that. I mean, Google gives it to us for free, and we don't need super sophisticated things that Mapbox. Like, I feel like Mapbox is a very powerful tool for people who make maps professionally and who want them to be beautiful data visualizations. And I don't think we need quite that much power for our project. But I mean, it could be cool if we learn how to do it. Um, okay, so does that help get you unblocked at least? Like, do you feel like you could?
Yeah, I think I'll just figure out which one has the better documentation for me to progress in.
Okay.
And then the other was the structure of the project. I had already posted it in Trello, so if that
Oh,
question could be answered.
sure. I saw this and I remember wanting to ask you about it because I wasn't really sure what the task here was. You've got a card
Like,
frameworks/libraries needed for the project, and then a list
like,
of.
are we coding in jQuery and using JavaScript where it's needed, or it's like free for all? Like, oh, some of us can code in JavaScript and others can code in whatever they're comfortable in,
Uh-huh.
like, and then the actual project structure. Like, I noticed Tommy put his in a script folder, and like, and you know how we had the last issue where we were trying to merge everything or trying to update everybody's GitHub account and the project, and then we just kept clashing with merge conflicts. Like, I just wanted to make sure we jumped off on the right foot.
Sure. Okay. So, yeah, okay, I see where you're coming from now. I will say, I'm just going to check off jQuery and React. Like, we're definitely going to be using those libraries. Um, I let's see, Sass. We could use Sass. I like Sass a lot. I don't know, but we should be using SCSS format, which I feel like most people who learn these days do anyway. So that basically SCSS means that raw CSS is incorporated properly. So I'll include that. Um, I know about Bower. I don't know much about the three other tools. Can you sort of give us a rundown of what they are?
Um, Bower just handles your packages, your front end packages. So like, say I already started the Bower project, added the Bower to my project, right? And then I added all my dependencies like Sass, React, jQuery, whatever type of framework I added, right? All you would need to do is clone the GitHub and say you don't have those packages in yours. All you would have to do is type Bower, and it will grab all those packages.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an easy package manager. And then Gulp is a build system, and Grunt is another build system. Grunt is older than Gulp. Gulp is an easier learning process, but both take a lot to set up. So it'll set up your builds, your automatically converting your Sass to CSS, um, running test applications, and live browser sync.
Cool.
And then Yeoman is just a scaffolding project.
I remember Yeoman from last
Yeah.
time. I piled a lot of cruft into our.
Yeah. So it's not really needed, but
Okay.
Bower is
Can
really.
you back up just a bit? You said that Gulp and Grunt are build systems. Can you explain what those are? Because I feel like a lot of people won't. What is a build system?
It just automate. Just I don't know. It turns your workflow into it automates your workflow. So like say. Really, I just use it for automatically converting my Sass into CSS and then checking it and then linting my JavaScript and my CSS and my HTML. So making sure everything's like up to best practices. And then the live browser sync. So I just press save and my the if I have the index.html file open, it'll just automatically reload, and I don't have to press, Command R every time. That's basically what I use it for, but it could be run deeper.
Okay. Is it the sort of thing where you set it up on your system and you do development with it? If you do that, are the rest of us dependent on it, or is it a thing that runs locally? Is it a thing that's attached to the project?
The yes and no. Like
Okay.
if I build the task and upload it to Git and then you clone it, if you already have Grunt and Gulp or either one on your system, all you have to do is press grunt serve or Gulp serve, and then it'll run the processes. But if you don't, it is dependent. So it's better just not to have it.
Okay. Um, if it's there, does it get in the way of other things you want to do?
Nah, it just makes a hassle of clicking through a couple extra folders to get to what you want
Okay.
to do.
I feel like we should stay away from extra folders for now.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, cool. That's good. That's a good thing to learn though, because I've actually never worked with a build system before, so be an interesting thing to play with for sure. Um, I would sort of like to get a sense from everyone, especially the new folks. How interested are you in participating and like, um, especially, well, I think like Michael was here last week. Like, how much React sort of research have you done? I will confess, I'm still knee-deep in Angular for work. I have not dug into React at all yet. Terrible group leader, right? But that's my situation. Kim, I guess I'll start with you again. We'll just do this alphabetically.
Yes.
Oh, just sort of like, what are your feelings about the project? Do you have any questions for what we've talked about so far? Are you interested in participating?
I'm interested in participating in anything that I can get my skills better. So I have no problem with the project. Um, I'm just sitting back and seeing where the needs are, what I could do, and so I'm just watching. Actually, I'm in an Angular group, and we just were using Gulp, um, Grunt and Yeoman actually had to get all that installed on my computer. And so he, thank you, is it Mark, for giving an explanation because I had no idea why I was doing it. I was just doing it because I was told to do it. So,
Yeah.
so, but yeah, I'm looking at the Trello. This is the third project that someone gave me a Trello board, but I really don't know like how people use it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you just grab something? I mean, I don't get, but
Well, typically, we would sort of talk about what our user stories are for folks that want to participate. You know, then we'll build out user stories, right? So something like has anyone heard of user stories before? I can explain it, but if one of you wants to explain it.
is it UX kind of user stories?
Yeah, exactly. What is a user story?
It's how a typical user or a user that you think would use your application or whatever, how they would use it, what kind of person or people they are, what kind of socioeconomic, I mean, those kind of things.
Okay, that's not quite what I meant. More it's like it is user experience for sure. It's like, what is a specific task that's going to happen on your website? Who's going to do the task? Why do they want the task? You know, and what is it? So one of our user stories might be, you know, as a code newbie, this is the structure. As a blank, I want to blank so that I can blank, right? So as a code newbie, I want to add myself to the map so I can show people that I want to meet other code newbies, right? So that'd be a user story. And then the way the Trello board works is we build out some of those, and then we can decide who's going to work on it together during this meeting. Or if something's out there and it looks urgent and it's at the top of the list, you can grab it for yourself and start working on it. Like as long as the things that you need are completed already. So that was kind of the intent with the Trello board, is that it helps everyone see where other folks working on tasks are, and then what things are available for them to work on, and keeps us all communicating.
Okay.
Cool. So, Mark, hard at work on the Maps API. Carry on.
Yeah.
Michael, how about you? I know you were here last week, and I think I remember you saying that you were fairly like new to it. So, maybe I don't remember. How are you feeling? Oh, can't hear you. That's okay. And then Tommy, so you're writing a blog post for us. Do you think there's another step that you'd like to take with the project?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking about, like when Mark was talking about using Grunt or Gulp, and then also when he was talking about how it sounds like in the last project there were some conflicts between the way that people were structuring the code that they were trying to commit, which was causing some conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if it's worth, as another step here, or somebody can take it up, would be to let's set like a boilerplate and say, okay, here's how we're going to structure the project in general, even if there's nothing in there. So, for example, I put a scripts, folder there, but that doesn't necessarily have to be that way. There could be an app folder with a scripts folder in it. But I think as long as we have like even just a bootstrapped version of like the GitHub project, that way people can grab it and then start working on it, and everybody's got a consistent baseline. That
Sure.
may be helpful.
Do you have a sense of, and this is my experience with Angular, that there are traditional ways of organizing code, but they're not set in stone? I mean, from what you've learned about React, is there a conventional way to do it?
I mean, from what I saw, not necessarily. I mean, I know. I think it all just sort of depends. You know, I was just looking up, you know, like JavaScript project boilerplates. You know that, and there's some on GitHub that you can just pull down, and they have just the baseline versions. Some even have like a grunt file that's already configured that you can just pull down and start using, which may be helpful if everybody wants to use grunt or gulp or yeoman, right, and have it going. For React specifically, I haven't looked into necessarily a React specific structure, but I can look and see what other people have done with it.
Well, that's where the yeoman came. That's what yeoman does, is scaffolds out projects, but from our previous experience was like there was too much stuff added that we necessarily wouldn't use. But I mean, if we would have done it from the beginning like we're starting right now and just clean up the actual scaffold part of it, it'll give everybody else a great place to start. Like I know there's a generator for React projects or Angular projects or just in general web app projects, and it just needs to be cleaned up to where we're not using the actual test part or all the unnecessary folders or the extra comments inside the HTML and CSS and JavaScript files. But what Dan was talking about was on a deeper level, like object-oriented programming and how we structure our actual code. But I think you were just talking about how we set up the project, right?
Yeah. So Tommy, you just shared something. Is this sort of like just clone this and get going?
Kind of. I mean, I literally just found this, so I was just looking through it. But
Cool.
I mean, basically, what it looks like, and this is very new. It's from mid-September, but I mean, the way it sounds, you clone it, and then it looks like it's got, like, you may have to have Node to get everything set up. But I mean, this is, for example, we could take out a lot of this, like Mark was saying, like if we're not going to use like the you know, all the tests. Like I think this has Jasmine built into it. I mean, if we're not going to use that, we can just strip it out. But this would may be a good starting point in saying, okay, for example, we're going to have an app folder. Inside that app folder, that's where we're going to have all of our you know, JavaScript files. That's where we're going to put our main React components in a component JS file, for example. I mean, it's going to vary when you look online, but I think if we come to a baseline and say, here's how we're going to structure it, and we've at least got a baseline moving forward where people can start building with it, and you can start adding things without everybody trying to commit a whole different, you know, folder structure to the GitHub, and then we start running into merge problems.
Sure, that makes sense. So I'm looking through here, and what I don't see is an HTML page. Like this is all. Oh wait, here we go. Dist index.html, and then it links the main JS file, which is minified. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. So I guess maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I kind of like starting from scratch and building the structure that we need as we grow, right? I mean, I do think there are certain you know, good ideas, like things like putting all of our JavaScript in a JS or scripts folder, maybe even depending on, you know, having subfolders like an APIs folder, because it seems like we're gonna have at least 2 of those. And then again, like I need to learn more about React and what its components are. But for Angular, you typically will have like a controllers folder, a directives folder, possibly a routes folder, definitely a services folder. So there are these traditional aspects of Angular that get their own folders, so you know where they are when you need them. So that sort of thing. And I do worry that with any of these templates or build tools that we are going to get a lot of stuff we don't want, like Jasmine tests, and that building from the ground up is also a better way for people to like learn you know, how the project really works. Does anyone have anything to add to or disagree with about that?
Yeah,
I agree with that because, as I put in the comments, I've never done a group project before, and it's great to have these generators and things, but I'm the kind of person who needs a under something, to grasp everything. And with all these templates and stuff, I don't get why or where it's coming from.
Yeah,
So this
that's
learning process helps me grasp that why, and then I can move to a template.
cool. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. It's like we'll know how it works because we built it. Um, and although I do think it's a good idea to build just a baseline, like let's make a raw HTML file. Let's link the scripts we already have to it.
yeah.
Comment those. Maybe Tommy, you could write in addition to the blog post just a brief sort of like, here's how we're going to outline our scripts, like because often so again referencing Angular, some things you add at the top of the file, some things you wait till the bottom of the file to add, and it might be nice to have some guidelines for newcomers about what goes where and why we put it there. Does that sound like a good card for next week?
Yeah, yeah. So are we talking about React specifically, or just in general, like how we're going to? Because I mean, with React, I mean, I've seen there's sort of unwritten ways where you put certain things. I mean, it's pretty basic, but I mean, I could certainly write that up and say, okay, we like your really the lowest level components, the really specific components, maybe go to the top, and then you work your way down when they get higher, right? So like at the bottom, you've got the sort of foundational component, and then the higher up you go in the file is what gets more specific and more specified.
Okay.
For example.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can over comment or like over explain really. The basics are good, and it might be nice to just have a rough file structure with an index.html, a styles folder, and with a linked style sheet just to start with, and then probably like a main.js, and put your API in an API's subfolder if you think that's a good idea, and then link it so that people can see what a link to the top level file looks like, what a link to a bottom, like a lower level directory file looks like. I think that'd be a really good example code.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Can we take a step back right quick? I just why did you guys choose React or whatever? If somebody could just explain that.
Sure. So it was a meeting probably 3 or 4 weeks ago now. Mostly a whole different crowd. We'd done the Hangman project, right? Which, if you haven't seen, I'll share it to the Slack channel afterwards. And that was just JavaScript and jQuery. And everyone who came to the meeting where we were going to talk about our next, like, what are we going to do next, and everyone wanted to learn a framework. And the consensus pick was React. So we talked about Angular, which was kind of complicated. We also talked about Meteor briefly. People decided it was like too much. I think there was at least one other framework that we sort of threw out there. Ember, or I'm not sure Ember does the same thing. I get them confused. So that is sort of thank you, Michael, for posting that link. That's sort of how we came to React. And then as folks came in, we just sort of have to like catch everybody up. That's kind of what's happening. Does that answer your question?
That does it. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So the folks that were part of that decision like are not necessarily here all the time.
As I said, I always need some kind of history to. Yeah, I just.
Okay. Yeah. Put everything in perspective
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly too, I mean React got picked because it's blowing up right now. It's super popular. So I think it was just hey, React, I've heard of that. Let's do it kind of thing too.
I have also heard that it's easier to step into slowly than, say, something like Angular, which is very particular. Um, I don't know if any of you probably all on Twitter because it's Code Newbies, right? But there's this tweet that keeps getting retweeted into my timeline. It's like an O'Reilly book. You know how O'Reilly books have animals on the cover, and this one I don't understand it. It's the title of the book is JavaScript for Millennials, and it's the cow, and the quote on the front of the book says, "I heard React was good," and like I don't understand it at all. I feel like I'm being made fun of, and like I'm not in on the joke. But anyway, that's out there. We all heard React was good, so we're doing React. um, cool. So let's see. Tommy, I'm going to put a card on the Trello board to manually create framework for our project, and including examples of file linking.
So we're just looking, like we said before, we're just looking for like a styles folder, an index.html probably at the top, and then I can sort of extrapolate or take the script that I have for API, put it into an APIs folder, and I can rename, like our scripts folder, I could keep it scripts or rename it JS or move it however we want, whatever's probably easiest for other people to.
Cool. I guess let's just go with JS so that folks know exactly what's in there. And the other thing I would say is if you know, you more than anyone here, I think, know where we're going with React, and you know that there's a certain file structure for React projects. Put those folders in there, even if nothing's in them yet.
Okay.
So people know, as they're learning, they see where things go.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool.
And yeah, I mean, I'll do a pull request once I have it all done. So I mean, we can certainly walk through it and discuss it and parse it out however we need to.
Great. Awesome. Okay. Thanks. Does anyone have anything that they want to talk about, or something about this project that they really are eager to tackle this week? Because I'd love to assign out some more tasks. I know we do have like a relatively small group of regular folks, so I don't want to assign anyone something if they're not sure they're coming back, or if they're just not quite ready yet.
I feel like nothing should be made until he does that part, so everybody has the same files, and we're not naming files different from what they were actually.
Cool. All right. Yeah. I mean, it is harder to submit pull requests when you don't have a file structure, but I mean, you can definitely still work on some components, right?
Yeah.
Without it, and patch the links together later. Although that is, I will say, with these frameworks, that is one thing that never stops being a problem, is that you forget to link and include dependencies. Terrible. Kim, you were sort of halfway into a sentence.
No, I was just saying I will take a look at React this week, and I'm looking at the Trello board, and I'm like, I don't see what I could pick up.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to just turn a couple of these things into more a series of user stories, and we'll talk about them the next time we get together, which are things like create, read, update, destroy actions for people adding themselves to the map, and then searching for meetups to add to the map as well, because this has not been fleshed out quite enough. So I'm going to add that to my to-do list. And then we'll have more to talk about, and I hope we get some bigger group of folks coming back every week so that we really get some like momentum on this thing. Yeah. Cool. Anything else in the world of JavaScript people want to talk about? There's always something going on in the world of JavaScript.
Not necessarily towards JavaScript, but towards GitHub. If you're confused with using Git and the Git commands, GitHub desktop application is great. Like not using the iTerm or the terminal, like just a regular application. Like I was able to like mess with Gulp, build out Gulp task, and then be like, scratch that, I don't want to use it, and then just revert, literally just a double click and revert back to this commit. And like I know there's a command out there to do it, I just don't feel like messing with it. It's just easier to click. And then like I built out one with Grunt, and I was like, Grunt's too much, and I just deleted it, and I used Yeoman, and I was like, all right, I like Yeoman. Then I cleaned it up, and I was like, I want to use Google Maps, and I just reverted back to the initial base of the project. So if you look at my branch, there's probably like 15 commits, and it's like all been reverted back to the like initial project setup. That's like, I wish I would have found that App Blast project.
Okay. As much as I want to encourage people to learn the command line, I mean, use the tools that will help you get the job done. Oh, cool. We had a couple people in the chat while I was not paying attention. Michael asked, is there going to be a backend? So we're planning to use the map API as the backend, right? We're just sort of this site references a maps database and sort of constructs something, and I think Mapbox was pretty strong with that. So we'll have to figure out how Google Maps can do it, and then our job is to build the interactivity and make it creative and like make it relevant for code newbies. So I think that answers your questions. Corey asks, oh, you want to talk about loops? Cool. How do you determine whether to have something return on separate lines versus all on the same line? I'm not quite sure what you mean. You mean like to break out of a loop and return a value? Yes, okay.
Like, what's the problem?
Yeah, I feel like we need more context here.
Like, if you was trying to, say you're just trying to make a list, you would probably make a for loop and then push to that list, you know, and then it'll just line it up behind. But, I mean, you could be doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could be talking about a return, and like, when do you use a return or when do you not? Because I was confused about that too. I was like, well, why is a return necessary? Like, I think I have some examples of that too.
Oh, you got some free code camp looping stuff queued up?
I have to find it.
Yeah, it'd also be interesting to know if you're using a for loop or a while loop, because those are different strategies.
Yeah. Because a for loop will be used if you already know the outcome. Like, I know. Oh, okay.
That's my problem. I don't know which of the many things we said you think could be your problem. But if you want to reach out in the Slack channel afterwards, you could like put code samples in there, share files. We can all talk about it there. This is not okay. Interesting. Well, everything I just said is, yeah, if you want to share specific code samples, feel free to do it in the group. Google Hangouts is not a good venue for just like sending files to each other and being able to talk about them. I guess the distinction I would make between a for loop and a while loop is that a for loop is generally to iterate a specific number of times. So, for instance, if you have an array that is 10 items long, you can set up a for loop to just count 10 times and look at each item in the array, and then it's done. And then a while loop is looking at a Boolean, a true-false value, and while that condition is true, it's just going to keep going. And then presumably something's happening in your loop that might eventually change that Boolean value. So the while loop will stop. And you don't necessarily need returns from them if they're just going to perform some operation and then you do something else. Does anyone have anything to add? Was that like? I hope that was like a good summary of the distinction. That's not. It's harder when there's not real like code in front of you.
Yeah.
Mark put some links into the chat box for both for loops and while loops.
While condition statement. Yep.
Then there's a do while. And
Yeah, that stuff got me
there's something
confused
else.
when I first was starting, but I finally grasped it.
Mm-hmm. So I learned Ruby first, and Ruby has like 10 different ways to loop, but nobody uses the for loop in Ruby. So coming to JavaScript, where you see for loops everywhere, it was a little disturbing, to say the least.
That's funny.
And like every now and then I'll run across like a for each loop. I'm like, oh, that's deprecated.
There's a lot of things about JavaScript that's disturbing. But
And it's
There's a
funny
lot that's
because
not used.
if you look at the Douglas Crockford stuff, and he does not recommend some of those loops.
I don't know who that is.
Douglas Crockford, he's the one who did JSLint. He created JSLint and JSON.
yeah, he's
Okay.
got a book out that's pretty
Well, he has a lot of.
Yeah.
He did the
JavaScript.
JavaScript good parts, but he has great videos on YouTube.
Cool. I'll have to look into him. I feel like I've just been exposed as a fraud for not knowing who this guy is. Thanks for telling me about him. Cool. Yeah, JavaScript, the good parts. Everyone talks about that and jokes about how what a thin book it is.
It's pretty steep. If you're starting out, that is a
Oh yeah,
pretty
that's
steep
way
book.
is deep. That's why I had to watch the
That
videos.
is not a that is not a book you grab when you just like, oh, I'm ready to learn some JavaScript.
And neither is eloquent JavaScript. I don't know why
No,
people
that's
keep
not either.
suggesting that to newbies too. That's a pain.
Yeah, I've had
Yeah.
to read. I haven't even gotten through it once.
Have you seen the annotated version?
About 15 times.
There's an annotated version of eloquent JavaScript.
Oh, I need to see that.
Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Give me a second.
This guy is like the greatest teacher. Hold on, I'll send you a link to this.
Annotated.
This is what's gotten me through a lot.
Okay, I don't want to start running a video, but cool, very cool. Can you just briefly say what the video is about?
It's JavaScript understanding the weird parts. He actually breaks down a lot of the methods that are used, a lot of functions, and the terminology that is used in JavaScript. Like a lot of people don't understand, like the terminology and like the lingo is what will mess you up. What will have you struggling for like hours, and you'd be like, oh, that's not what a method actually is. Like a method is actually part of it's not nothing different than a function. You know, it's like
Exactly, but it's just a part of an object. But they don't say it that way.
yeah, you're like, what is this method? Like, yeah, like he really breaks down a lot, and like his philosophy is like, don't just copy code, like understand why that code works that way. So he breaks it all the way down to the prototype.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I also attempted eloquent JavaScript at one point, and the first 4 chapters were good. And
Yes,
then
I stopped after that.
I think it's the part about closures, and like I get closures now. Like I like them. I understand the power of closures, but for someone who's new to JavaScript, it's just like mind blowing and doesn't make any sense at all. And that's chapter 5. It's like the you're coasting along like this, and then the learning curve goes like straight up.
Yeah, and then if you get through that, like once I got to the project where you're making your own mini language, that's where I just had to skip it because I'm going to go back and look at this after I read about 6 more books because it was crazy.
Exactly, and that's the book they're always telling beginners to read. I just put the annotated version in the chat.
Oh, okay. So it's like he sort of like added some stuff onto it.
No, this is a totally different guy. He just took it and is annotating it as we speak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
he has videos and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
That is
I
awesome.
thought it was like going to be like humorously annotated, like
Oh no, this is serious because it's too hard to read.
yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I think there's still the like a place in the market for like. Has anyone done? I don't know how many of you also do Ruby, but there's a book called "Learn to Program" by Chris Pine, and he.
I've heard it.
Okay, yeah. So it's really great. It doesn't take you too far into the language, but it covers all um, the big ideas in a really simple, straightforward way. And I feel like that book doesn't exist for JavaScript.
Nothing exists for JavaScript like that.
Like it's all just too hard, too fast. And I don't think JavaScript. You don't have to do it that way. So maybe, yeah, like I need one more project. Like, but you know, someone needs to write that book because I know it'd be a bestseller. Um, Cool. Yeah. Are there anything else happening in the world of JavaScript that folks want to talk
Has anybody heard of I Love Coding? Or yeah, it's all JavaScript based tutorials. He does Angular, Node, but it's all JavaScript.
No, I haven't heard of that.
Hold on, let me see. I love coding. Um,
I'm gonna copy all of these links into a doc so we have them for later because you guys are sharing like crazy tonight.
Corey, I am a self-taught programmer.
Yeah, this is
Oh,
interesting.
My screen.
I'm taking a look at this.
I did have let me see if I can share the screen real quick. Kind of forgot all about this. Let me see if I can explain it. Maybe you guys can explain it back to me. So, this is the
Yeah, go ahead,
framework
Mark.
that I'm building. I'm passing in the window object and jQuery, as you can see in the file structure, for a couple of the functions. And up here, the global object and the $ I'm using so I can look just like jQuery. Let me see which one it is. Yeah, so I can do something like that.
What's that? You got function person. Okay, new greeter.
And if you're wondering why I made that variable self equals this, is because I get confused a lot with where the scope of this is and what's this actually pointing to.
Mm-hmm. Self. That's very Ruby.
So,
Oh, Corey, I saw you ask, are you a self-taught programmer? I used to say, I mean, I'm really not. I went to a dev boot camp, you know, so not the dev boot camp, a web development boot camp. So I don't think I'm allowed to say that I'm self-taught. That's the truth. So Mark, what can we help you with here? Sorry, I'm not sure.
I was just showing what I was working on.
Oh, cool. Cool.
The framework I was talking about last week.
What does it do? Can you show it in action?
Nah, not yet.
Okay.
It's just gonna be a whole bunch of greeter functions. I'm probably just gonna do it in different language, so you can just call like greeter Spanish or whatever, and then pass in the name, and it'll just come out and say hola or whatever, something like that. But that's basically how frameworks are built.
Cool.
Like if you take a look at like jQueries, I've just been looking like through like famous frameworks and then like pulling out stuff as I'm learning that makes sense to me.
Cool. I could show. I don't want to show the code because it's a mess, but I could show off the project I'm working on for work right now, which is it's a Trello clone, but I really don't have much in the way of functionality built yet. It's just like basically I can sign us in and sign us back out again if people want to see that. Right, CD.
They're calling me. I gotta eat dinner.
Oh, I saw you. Yeah, I saw your daughter in there before. Like,
Yeah, she came in twice to tell
hey,
me.
are you hungry? All right.
Yeah. All right, I'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, you gotta go. You gotta go. Have a good night.
All right, bro.
Have a good one.
All right. Not available yet. My server is firing up. Michael asked, "Did you make a CAPTCHA for yourself? Was that a question for me?" Yeah. No, I haven't. I've never played with the CAPTCHA before. Um, I guess it's not too secure. Load. Yeah, here we go. Cool. So I'll show you this. So this is the clone I'm working on. It's got Rails on the back end and then Angular on the front end. So it just does like you can sign up. Dan, this is not my real email address. And then a password. And then create your account. And then, oh, it's supposed to redirect me. That's broken. But now I can go to boards. And it's got new board stuff. It's got my name. Then I can log out. And then I have a goodbye page, too. So that I'm going to use it for a portfolio piece. So I was like, they should be able to email me after they are done looking at it. So that's what I'm working on. And it's also for work because it's a student project as well. So I'm trying to like put together a good solution. But we'll stop.
Right.
Yeah. Anyone else have a project that they want to like share a little bit of?
Well, I was kind of working on something yesterday. A little bit, it's node related, but this is more. I'm trying to just. I couldn't get it to work. So basically, what I'm trying to do is basically scrape an ESPN fantasy football league page. What I want to just try and do, just for my own purposes, is like scrape all the scores and whatnot off of it, and then eventually I want to try and do something data visualization with it, just to play around with it.
Okay.
I've got if you Google and do like Node.js web scraping, you can get a bunch of stuff, and that works. The problem is when you're trying to the page I'm trying to scrape is behind, like you have to log in to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's ways to do it and log in with it, but ESPN, it looks like they use Angular actually, and it's weird. It's like it pulls up a modal pop-up, and I can't figure out how to get like a post request to have it go through, sign in, and then scrape. So I don't know. I mean, this is for anybody. If you're out watching this later on too, if anybody has any experience with that in any language, let me know, because I'd be super interested to see how it's done. Just getting through the authentication wall is the problem that I'm having right now. So this is just a reach out to anybody who's ever had to do a scraper and go through authentication to do it.
Yeah, I've done it in Ruby before. There are some gems, Nokogiri and Mechanize, that let you do stuff like that. But JavaScript makes it hard. Like if they've got a modal with for the sign-in page, like it's because I'm not like a pro at this, but my understanding is scrapers pull down the base DOM, and they don't pull down anything that gets added to the DOM later by JavaScript. So they're not interactive once you pull them. So I've heard there are ways to do it. Haven't played with any of them.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was just playing around with it. I didn't get it to work, but I ended up going way deep down the rabbit hole and started working with a couple. I don't know if you've heard of Phantom JS or Casper JS.
No, they both sound very spectral.
Yeah, it's about as untransparent, opaque as you can get if you're looking at their docs and stuff. But basically, I think they're used more for testing. Like if you wanted to make a test suite that basically has the node go through and click on things and open things up and go to a different page and then do something else. So I was trying to figure out, and you can actually take screenshots of the page. So you can say, hey, Phantom JS, go to this page, and it'll spit back out you can make a PNG file or a JPEG file that has the page.
Like, it'll stop in the middle of the JavaScript running and take a picture for you of what a page looks like at a certain point.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I was trying to get it to see if I could get that modal to pop up, and I never could. I'm still trying to work on it, but it's really interesting and it's really cool. Introduction to Node as well. If you want to just take a look at that, because I think web scraping is just cool in general, even though sometimes you can kind of flirt with legality on some of it, depending on the site.
Yeah,
sure. But yeah, it was just really interesting, and I want to try and get it to work eventually, but I may put it on hold for a little bit, especially with our project going on here. But if I can get it to work, or if anybody knows how to get it to work, please send me a message on Slack. I would be eternally grateful.
Cool. A few of the sports nuts here at the school where I'm teaching is they did a similar kind of thing, a web scraping project for fantasy sports, because they I'll DM you the link afterwards. I'm not sure if they want me to like post it necessarily. It's weird. I think you need to. I don't totally understand how it works, to be honest. You need some sort of league ID, but I think it is using ESPN on the back end, so you don't have to log in. But it'll. Their thing is it creates stats for your league, right? Like there's certain things about participation in your league that they can't figure. Bye, Mike. Oh, well, he's gone. Bye, Michael. Cool. So, So I feel like fantasy. Well, so fantasy sports is just so popular to begin with, but then also it can be an interesting hook for like scraping, data mining, and visualization. Like because it's all just stats out there, right? And it's something you can like play around with. Very cool. So our dwindling numbers. It is 7:15 for me. So. Maybe I will. Let's close things down for the night. Corey, thanks for sticking it out with us. I hope you had a good first time. And feel free, anyone who's watching, feel free to reach out on Slack for more information about the project, or hopefully join us next week. Cool. Yeah, you're welcome, Corey. All right. I'm going to turning off the live button. Stop.